Hello and welcome to this engaging fireside chat centered around the topic of immense significance today in today's interconnected world. It is our privilege to have with us two eminent thought leaders who have been instrumental in shaping the landscape of fintech and payments through their leadership and visionary contributions. Please join me in extending a hearty welcome to Mr. Padmanabhan, an esteemed advisor to both the Fintech Convergence Council and the Payments Council of India, and Mr. Navin Surya, Chairman of the Fintech Convergence Council and Chairman Emeritus of the Payments Council of India. So today's fireside chat revolves around the theme of global collaboration and responsible innovation. In a world characterized by rapid technological advancements and an increasingly interconnected financial ecosystem, the importance of responsible innovation and global collaboration cannot be overstated. Both Mr. Padmanabhan and Navin have been pivotal in driving the conversation around responsible innovation, financial inclusion, and security within the fintech and payments industry. Their leadership and expertise have shaped policies, fostered partnerships, and encouraged dialogue between regulatory bodies, industry players, and fintech innovators. As we dive into this enlightening conversation, we'll explore the power of cross-border collaborations in driving resilient and inclusive innovation, the role of fintech in promoting financial inclusion on a global scale, and the imperative of maintaining a delicate balance between innovation and security. So without further ado, let's dive into this illuminating fireside chat with Mr. Padmanabhan and Navin on global collaboration and responsible innovation. Thank you, both of you, for joining us today on CXOTV. So let's kick off our conversation with the fundamental question, which is, how do you perceive the role of global collaboration in fostering responsible innovation within the fintech and payment sector? And building upon this, could you also elaborate on specific examples where cross-border collaborations have led to innovative solutions and addressing financial inclusion challenges? Mr. Padmanabhan, if we can start from you, sir.
First of all, thank you very much, Kalpana. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this very interesting chat. Of course, relationship between me and Navin go a number of years. We were on the opposite sides of the table for some time, but now we are on the same side of the table. So, and we have always had discussions and debates, panel discussions together. So it's a pleasure to be participating in yet another fireside chat along with Navin. So thank you very much for that. Now, it's a very interesting question. In fact, if you go back and think, what really is a responsible innovation? Is there anything called a responsible innovation at all? Because innovation just happens. Now, I think that is where the role of the regulators and the government and the global collaborations come in, to make sure that the innovations which ultimately get adopted and innovations which become product are indeed responsible. Now, unless they are responsible, it could have a negative impact. I mean, it could be anything. It could be starting from any basic product. Look at a dynamite. The dynamite was invented not for an atom bomb. But dynamite being a dynamite, it is good. But when it became atom bomb, it's bad. So what should global collaboration ensure? The global collaboration must ensure that the products or the innovations that happen, ultimately, there's a challenge. Because innovators, basically, when we're talking about the technology space, the important thing they look for is customer convenience. And this is where the challenge for the regulator comes, because the regulator probably goes on the other side, which is talking about the system security and kind of issues like that. So if something has to become a responsible innovation, it's important to make sure that it is not only the customer convenience, you take into account the security aspects, you take into account the affordability aspects, you also take into account the fact that this innovation, the way in which it is implemented, becomes a democratized product rather than a winner takes all model. And I think India specifically has been in the forefront in ensuring that many of the infrastructures, particularly in the public sector, in the payment space, are democratized. Take the classic example of where India is known to the rest of the world today the most, which is in the retail payment space, the NPCI, the UPI. It is such a democratized setup in the sense that there is a hub model. There are spokes and many people can connect with that. In fact, in the thought process, even Navin participated in a big way. And this model is today seen as one of the best models in the retail payment systems around the world. Now you look at today another development which is happening, which is in respect of CBDC. If you call CBDC as an innovation. Now, since you started the discussion by saying that we live in an interconnected world, in an interconnected world, unless the systems are able to talk to each other, which presupposes collaboration, which presupposes setting up standards, unless these things happen, it is very difficult to make a product a global product. So when we talk about reaping important benefits of, let's say, the innovations that happen, the global collaboration, it becomes important. Otherwise, the basic premise fails. And now let's take the case of where India led the world, two-factor authentication, which we in a way I was connected with that. Now, once the two-factor authentication came about, particularly in the card space, the credit card, debit card space, as you would know, the card non-present transactions, what we call technically the frauds, declined completely as far as India is concerned. But still, the Indians were losing money because these cards got cloned and got used overseas where two-factor authentication is not there. So if we talk about a collaboration, unless we are able to talk about a common standard for the benefit of all, then it doesn't work. And when you talk about standards in a technology scenario, I think you should talk about technology standards and operational and governance standards. Now, these technology standards are mostly developed in the West, but now India is also catching up and this gets adopted. As far as the operational governance standards are considered, particularly in the payment space, fintech space, we have the committee working the payment system committee working in Basel, where India is making, after becoming a member, making a huge contribution who sets standards, etc. So setting standards, talking across, either in CBDC, talking about common standards so that one system talks to the other, this becomes very critical when we talk about technology, payments, fintech, etc. Maybe I stop here.
Yeah, thanks. So Navin, what's your perspective on this?
So thanks, Kalpana. Thanks, sir, for your kind words. I think it's always been a pleasure interacting with you, either other side of the table or the same side of table. It's always a learning experience for me. So yet another opportunity. So interestingly, Kalpana, the theme that you've selected is also theme for this year's Global Fintech Festival. We are also doing, it's a thought leadership platform from, it was second largest platform already across the globe. And this year, we're likely to be neck to neck with the largest one. Planned on September 5th, 6th, 7th, right in Mumbai, BKC. So again, our idea is also to talk to you and reach out to as many people. And you picked up the app theme while I don't know how much justice we can do in an, let's say 30, 40-minute discussion, because this is a theme for entire 3-day conference. So you could imagine the importance of the topic. Now, why is it so important? Especially in terms of remittances, in terms of inclusion, in terms of many similar things. So as sir said, standards, right? So if you see globally, most of the fintechs, and you start with payments as a basic rails on which all of the fintechs work. Very early days, even when the card payment started as the first electronic payments, they couldn't have worked if the same standards were adopted. I mean, if you see Visa, MasterCard today in India or US or anywhere in the world, they work seamlessly because we all follow standards and we adopt standards, and that's a result of a global collaboration of countries working together on the same standards, right? Similarly, securities, there are security standards. If you talk fund transfers, there's been SWIFT, right? Over a period of time, there are a lot more things that have happened. Remittances, you have a similar thing. However, what's changed, like sir said, that earlier the standards and these global collaboration were more driven from the West. Now, if you see last decade and a half, India has come on the global map, and we are driving these innovations from forefront. So today, IMPS, UPI, you're talking about credit platforms, you're talking about many other account aggregator models. Each of these models are being done by India today for the first time. We are setting the standards for these. Now, if you have to take them out and for the whole world to benefit with the kind of success we have achieved, and they also to be successful, they need to be able to collaborate with us, adapt to the standards we are proposing, and we should be able to work with them to modify wherever required for it to become more adaptable by more countries. So all the time, I mean, of all the decades and a half, I think now is the time, it's become very important that the global collaboration talk about a lot of these things to expand the opportunities from India perspective. At the same time, there has been some interesting technology innovations. Now, every coin has two sides, right? Or every product has good and bad side. Sweets, right? If they could be also lovely, good taste, but you eat too much, you have a diabetes. So it's the same issue. So let's take an example of a crypto which actually triggered this whole global debate and suddenly attention on a collaboration. A product that was created with something like Bitcoin, which was meant for the whole world, but there was no clear regulations. There was no clarity as to who's working on it. It was a concept of of decentralized automation, autonomous organization, right? So there's no one person really kind of running it. So how do you go after? So while that innovation came in for a reason, it had its own good, bad, ugly side. The problem that it triggered that a lot of other people, especially bad actors, got into similar space, try to create products and overnight wins, right? So again, defrauding the, let's say, investors, defrauding the ecosystem. And this is where, again, everybody's attention came that as the world is digitizing, and digitized mean it becomes globalized because it's easily accessible, right? We've also seen similar issues. The app that we were talking about for illegal activities on the lending and then defrauding people, right? These are, again, cases where somebody outside your geography is trying to defraud your person. And if you don't really have a global collaboration in fixing these issues, there is a limitation on how much you can control. So there hasn't been, as I said, any better time to talk about this global collaboration. So whether it's a space of crypto, whether it's of a tokenized asset, whether it's a space of CBDC, whether it's space of fast payments, whether it's a global remittances, the number of areas that are increasing. On the other hand, you're also talking about more and more local currencies to be used for trade, which again needs collaboration, which again has implications. So if you look at all these items, and that's another point that, again, today, if you're seeing G20 agenda, many of these are the key agenda to be discussed there, right? And interestingly, that's happening right in our country. So I would say that global collaboration is very critical today if we really have to deliver a robust system to any consumers across the world that are legally, rightfully, kind of are entitled to those products. And that can happen. When I say global, it's mostly the government and the policymaker level. Commercial level, they just have to follow what norms and standards come from there, what regulation comes from there, right? So it will have to be first at the country level, then it will have to be at the policy level, then the regulators will have to come together and put a framework. Good part is if we are able to do it, and wherever we've seen in past it has happened, the growth and scale has been huge. And those are the benefits, again, that will accrue to our country. Now, responsible innovation, while I covered some of the innovations, they could be seen as a responsible or irresponsible. But again, it was a part of the same reason that how do you define? And as Sir said already, that it's ultimately the regulators' call to keep the bad things in a check. While you don't want to stop it, but make sure that bad actors are not, running the system AY and good consumers getting blamed or, let's say, getting cheated in the system. So consumer protection has always been a very important topic for all the regulators. So broadly, I think it's a perfect timing. The theme is apt. It's very critical. I've already given you multiple examples why this is required.
Absolutely.
If I could just add on to your point, since
Sure.
Abhi spoke about the speed with which the scaling up happens. So this would probably add another dimension, in my view, to the global collaboration. Now, the global collaboration alone is not sufficient. It has to be agile also. Because the problem with the global collaboration probably taking 5 years to come out with the standard is that by the time the market has moved so much and so much scaling up has happened as a result of which any kind of standard which results in, let's assume that if 8 out of 10 things are getting stopped, that will be seen as a disruption rather than facilitating innovation. So there is a challenge. There is a collaboration. There is a need for an agility to come up, and how they arrive at this common factor is something I think which is interesting. And that's why, as Navin said, the Global Fintech Festival and other similar the kind of events, bringing all these thought leaders onto a common platform is likely to achieve these outcomes, which are the best for the market.
Absolutely, sir. So that means that stakeholders can ensure that innovation is not only driven by technological advancements, but also by a shared commitment to responsible and sustainable practices. Yeah. So next question to you, Padmanabhan sir, that responsible innovation also involves maintaining a balance between technological advancement and security. So how can global collaboration contribute to addressing the cybersecurity challenges and that come with the fintech evolution?
Very critical. I think very critical, very important question. In fact, the oft-repeated statement says that in an interconnected world, you are as good as the weakest link. So there is no point in saying that my security system is very good. And like the example I took in my answer to the first question, the two-factor authentication enabled that no frauds happen in India, but the frauds move overseas. The Indian cards were affected. So which basically means that the global collaboration becomes extremely critical as far as the security is concerned. That's why if you find in any country which is reasonably advanced technologically, there are these certains, the government organizations which are there across the world, they collaborate with each other, there is exchange of information. Now, what would be an ideal situation? If you look at an ideal situation in terms of thinking about this collaboration, today I think considerable amount of time, energy, effort went in tackling the so-called terrorism and money laundering, right? So today we have a common database in terms of who are the people whom you should not be doing any business with, etc., etc. There's a database about the countries which are compliant, not compliant, etc. So the world has really come together as far as taking care of this terrorism, funding, money laundering, all these issues are concerned. Now, when we talk about security, the cyber security particularly, please understand that most of the cyber attacks that happen is happening from the other jurisdictions. It doesn't happen in our jurisdiction. Now, I will not, for instance, getting into probably a more controversial topic of state-sponsored cyber issues. No, I'm talking about the others, right? Now, when we talk about the others, basically, unless there are rules and regulations to tackle these cyber criminals, I think they will go scot-free. They will, because they are working from a jurisdiction which is not our jurisdiction at all. So if you're talking about cyber security, collaboration, two aspects become quite important in my view. One is, again, I go back to the standards, and we will make sure that certain basic standards are adhered to. These are stress tests before any kind of technological innovation is allowed to put into use or use as a product. This becomes critical in one way. The second issue is that there are collaborations with regard to, let's say, taking care of the criminal offenses, the legal issues, where the countries collaborate with each other to make sure that the entire ecosystem is kept robust and the criminals are not allowed to go scot-free, irrespective of from which jurisdictions they work from. And probably I would add one more to say that to maintain the sanctity and the integrity of the system, what becomes quite critical is the exchange of information. Because if you look at the frauds, I mean, let's take a case which all of us have dealt with. Navin was also there, where India, as you know, initially started with the cards, which are what is called the backstrike cards, right? Today we are talking about chip and pin. Now, why chip and pin? Because the backstrike is easy to clone and take the information. Chip and pin makes it difficult. Now, why chip and pin started? If you take a country, one of the countries where huge amount of frauds happened was in Malaysia. So Malaysia started implementing the chip and pin. And once Malaysia started implementing chip and pin, these criminals started attacking the other countries. So the cyber issue is something which moves from country to country. Once your systems are strengthened, it just attacks the next weak system. So it becomes very critical when we are talking about the security for this collaboration to happen. And unless this happens, then I think there will be pockets where there are problems. And within an interconnected world, these problems which happen anywhere has implications for the rest of the system. So it's extremely critical. In fact, of all aspects, whether a product, you have a common collaboration or depends upon whether you are accepting a product. Navin did mention about the crypto. Now, there are countries which have accepted crypto. There are countries which have not accepted crypto. So there is no question of common standard as far as crypto is concerned, at least as of now. But when we talk about security, unless we have this common collaboration, common standards, common exchange of information, frequent, let's say, conversations happening between the security organizations in different countries, I think this will become an extremely difficult situation. Because I often tell in a lighter way that just as we are having meetings, conferences, webinars, there are a set of people in who are called the cyber criminals who are also probably having such webinars and answering questions. So it becomes very critical that there is this collaboration for this aspect.
Yeah, so absolutely. By promoting information sharing and establishing common standards, fostering research and development, and investing in capacity building, countries can collectively enhance cybersecurity and ensure a balance between technological advancement and security, we can say in short. So coming to you, Navin, responsible innovation also encompasses ethical considerations, especially in the realm of emerging technologies like AI and blockchain. So how ethical guidelines can help for the adoption of these technologies in fintech?
No, so it's a very valid question. And I think at least India has embarked on first the privacy data bill, which is just the protecting digital information of the customer, right? And by the time we are done with it, probably the timing wise in a way it's right, because we'll have to very quickly look at it and see that the next landscape that's changing with Gen AI, how it is going to impact ethically the lives of the people. And like we said that every technology, every product has a both sides of the coin, and as good, bad, and ugly all come together, right? It's up to the people how they use it. So it has multiple implications today. We all know that one of the biggest, most sought after questions in every Gen AI discussion is that what happens to the data that gets spoofed, that gets, let's say, scanned by all these channels, and especially the proprietary one. While there are answers, but the reality is nobody knows for sure what really happens. So let's say you could probably write a book, right? Using a Gen AI today, there are enough tools available. But the material that has been picked from multiple data sets, the original owners, how do they get compensated? How do they get benefited? How do they get, let's say, credited? None of those issues are still clear, right? It actually can easily trample on somebody's IP or somebody's, let's say, multi years work that suddenly can be utilized by a small white paper, maybe somebody sitting in a corner. So there are a lot of these ethical considerations that you're saying. And the reality is that today we do not have very clear guidelines across the globe on these subjects. And as I said, as of now, we're still grappling with the basic digital privacy and digital data related issues. And I believe this is another area which needs, again, huge collaboration, which needs to bring a lot of elements of ethics and responsibility. As I said, because there is a regulatory framework, probably adding an additional guidelines would be easier. But have we thought through that what exactly needs to happen, right? And we're not adding future additional things that will happen, let's say with quantum coming into play. It will become, again, extremely difficult if you're not, as Padmanabhan sir was saying, because by the time you do it, probably the damage is already done. One time we used to probably debate a lot that the measures on the card networks are coming, especially in a global context, too late. By the time probably the data is already leaked. Every card number is already there with the processor in a dark web. So what do you do about it? So, sometimes we have to act swiftly with agility in understanding, in figuring out that what are the must issues that has to be addressed on a day one, which are going to hamper somebody's interest on an immediate basis, right? So I think this is the time we need to understand more. This is the time we need to identify and ask those bold questions like you're asking. Are we ready? Do we have an answer? The honest answer is no. I don't think we have. But can we get going and asking these questions? Absolutely. So that is what will trigger probably the thought process and more answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kaduna, if I could again add a little bit to Navin said, I think this one part of the discussion, at least personally, I'm looking forward as far as the global fintech question is concerned. Because this is an evolving technology, right? An evolving scenario where we are talking about artificial intelligence. I think people like us with the gray hair think that should not cannibalize the natural intelligence, because natural intelligence goes, everything goes. But in any case, and again, in artificial intelligence, if you go back to the first question that you raised, there are good and bad. Now, as it evolves, see, for instance, artificial intelligence can be used to drive financial inclusion. It can be used to drive your MSME lending, because you'll be able to collect data, analyze data, you find out who is good. Now, you will be able to make the cross-border transactions seamless. If we have a common database, exporters, importers, everybody know all this issue of NC, exchange, all this issue can go away. So artificial intelligence has huge potential. Now, there are some negatives to that. The artificial intelligence could be used by the hackers. The artificial intelligence could be used by the cyber criminals also. The artificial intelligence, there is a worry that in emerging markets, it could displace labor, as a result of which the job issues could become a problem. So as this interesting, technology develops, this is probably the right time. And that's why we are bringing the global top leaders onto this conference as to what are the aspects that we need to be excited about? What are the issues that we need to worry about or be cautious about when we talk about artificial intelligence? Because unbridled use of technology without any checks and balances, we understand, would have negative impacts, which will probably need more regulation to resolve, rather than the better method is to think through upfront and put in place the right set of rules, regulations for this purpose.
Yeah, so that means by fostering inclusive discussions with such events like we are coming up with Fintech festivals, we can promote international corporations, and we can establish ethical guidelines that promote responsible innovation. Okay, so let's zoom in on financial literacy. Like, how can the financial literacy can contribute for raising levels on a global scale?
Well, if I had to go first, probably I would respond to you stating that this is one area which I probably less excited about rather than the other kind of issues that you raised. Because first of all, financial literacy in a large way is country specific. The needs of this country is different from the needs of other countries. That's number one. Secondly, with the coming of the the voice and artificial intelligence, the ability to convey information in a GP across different languages, all these things, as far as our country is concerned, while financial literacy is still an issue, I think this is an issue which is getting resolved very quickly. Of course, as and when innovations happen, new products happen, it must be accompanied by proper communication about the do's and don'ts and all this. But that system is evolving. Whether we need global collaboration as far as the financial literacy is concerned, right, in some kind of standards, etc. But I wouldn't think that that's a very important thing that we should really get worried about and we should drive it. Because at least as far as this country is concerned, we have enough of, the bright minds and technology to make sure that financial literacy can be imparted, irrespective of whether there is global collaboration or not. So I'm not discouraging global collaboration, but I'm less excited about the global collaboration as far as the financial literacy.
So it depends with different countries in terms of the underserved population.
Maybe Navin has a view.
Sure.
So I think
what's your perspective? Yeah.
Let me expand the financial literacy to first the inclusion, because that's small part of the overall inclusion agenda.
Yeah.
So when it comes to global collaboration, I think there are already global agencies, World Bank to IFC to multiple. And if you see their part of their agenda is all around digitizing financial services, driving inclusion, and a small part is also about literacy, right? But that doesn't talk about actual execution of literacy. That's broadly talk about as a principle that we need to drive it. So as far as that part is concerned, yes, probably the global awareness, global monitoring, some sort of a data collection, so that there is enough attention from the top and all the regulators that we are going to achieve this. And that is already happening. Maybe additionally, there could be some bit of a capital availability from a global, especially the developed world side. That could be some area. But if you see largely, probably on an inclusion side, not literacy so much. Literacy is highly local, and I agree with services already answered. From an inclusion perspective, interestingly, so we always say India is a very large country, and probably we are already we are already the largest populous country, right? So, and within this, we have probably the cream de la cream kind of a population, very ultra high net worth to a literally kind of below poverty line people. So we have enough demography. And even in India, probably we have about half of the population underbanked, underserved, kind of more than that. And financial services, obviously, slightly higher, especially given that certain products are less than single digit penetration. So if you look at the scenario, but the way the things are rapidly changing with our adoption of digital technologies and our digital India model with combination of rest of the tools that we've developed, right? Whether it's starting with UIDI to DigiLocker to eKYC to multiple things that we've done. I think the learnings that we have generated over a period of time and the growth and the success that we have created, it actually could be fit in a 2/3 of population of the whole world, which is excluded today. So that's where probably India could leapfrog and probably open its knowledge buckets for everybody else to fill their cup and see that how it fits in there and work with them. So like I said, literacy probably a smaller bucket, but overall inclusion area, again, we have a lot more work. And again, as I said, festival like GFF attempt is to have that collaboration to work and share and learn. And there may be areas we can learn from others as well. So again, there has been some interesting stories from other countries on successful higher penetration of a retail, retail acceptance of payments, right? In terms of POS, etc. So there are always a healthy exchange of ideas and a knowledge. So that's where we see that broadly some collaboration could work, but otherwise I agree with sir. As far as literacy is concerned, it has to be highly local and at the local level.
Now, maybe let me take one example, Padmanabhan. This may be of interest to you with regard to how it is a part of the people understanding the system. So you can call it a sort of literacy. I was standing in an ATM long ago near my place where two guys, obviously not very well educated, construction workers probably. One guy went inside, the other guy was standing out. He went in, put his card, tried to draw the money, came out looking very worried. And this actually happened. I'm citing an actual incident. And he says, the other guy standing outside, he said, "Kya ho? What happened?" So he said, "I did the transaction, paisa nahi aaya." Then immediately his next question is, "Check your mobile. Has any SMS come?" He says, "Then kuch nahi aaya." "Then kuch nahi hoega. Aaram karo." See, in a very simple way, we have been able to communicate it to people how they should be able to do this transaction, what they should worry about, what they should not worry about. This is where I'm saying that financial literacy is probably population specific, region specific, and this will have to be tackled differently.
Yeah, that was a really nice example. So last but not the least, could both of you share your vision for the future in terms of fintechs?
No. Navin, you would like to go first? Maybe let me have the last word.
Okay, first and last, the regulators. So let me keep it brief. So I think we are in a new India, right? We are on the south pole of the moon for the first time than any other country, though otherwise fourth. So there are a lot of things happening for the first time. We're already talking about being third largest economy, right? We are already third largest fintech ecosystem in the world, right? In terms of number of companies, startups, investments, etc. So I think if I take a specific timeline, because the future vision has to have a timeline, maybe 5 years. My personal vision would be that how do we reach a kind of second, definitely, and a close first. That's a kind of thought process. And that can happen, my belief is that only with the digital fintechs, because if you see, it took us literally right from independence to now to get one bank as a part of top 10 most global bank list, right? Just as DFC merger. And if you look at insurance, I still see that the largest insurance company that we have and the largest in the world is a 10x gap again in a market cap. On the other hand, all the success stories that you see, whether UPI, whether UIDI, whether account aggregator, anything on a digital side we have done, we have leapfrogged. And the numbers that we are driving out, I think they're already matching or they're neck to neck with China and moving ahead. So it's very easy for us. And then given the opportunity of under penetration in our country, I think we would be by clear margin, a good second largest ecosystem. Idea will be that how do we take it to the first neck to neck to a larger countries? So that's a vision that I have. Second, definitely we are, but how do we make it together to be number largest in 5 years?
Thanks.
No, I agree with most of the things that Navin said. In fact, if you ask me specifically what I'm looking forward is that probably it's about nearly a decade after we first put in place for the payments. Let me take a space which I'm very familiar with, the RTGS and the electronic payment system, that slowly we started seeing the electronic transactions overtaking the check transactions. So what is it that I'm looking forward? I'm looking forward to a scenario where the electronic transactions overtake even the cash transactions. The cash transactions. So this is where I think the people who interact with the customers, which is where the role of fintechs come in a big way. I think this customer convenience, making customer interface seamless, I think this is a critical aspect that the fintechs have brought into the system. Even the credit part, even today it's happening to the insurance part. So the intermediation by the banks, the aggregation and disintermediation by the fintechs, these are very exciting prospects that I'm looking forward to. In fact, on the other side, if you take the GIFT City, there is one initiative where we worked in a committee where we are trying to see all the unicorns of India who are large in number, who want to put up their shops overseas, how they can be encouraged to come back and set up their establishments in India, rather than calling them an American company with Indian promoters, Indian workers. It will be an Indian company with Indian promoters and Indian workers. So fintechs have a huge space as far as this country is concerned. The banks will have to learn to work with them. And that's what the future is.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Mr. Padmanabhan and Mr. Navin, for sharing your expertise and perspectives on global collaboration and responsible innovation. It has been a privilege to have you both with us today on CXOTV. Your vision is inspiring and your insights are invaluable.
Thank you, Kalpana. Thank you for the noise. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more updates from CXOTV, please like and subscribe to our channel.